Hi, my name's Jewell. I work at Danger Press. We're here today to talk about alternatives Eco-Fleece. We've been working with it for about the past 10 years, so we'll share some insights on how to get the best results. Let's talk about why it's called Eco-Fleece. It's eco because it's got organic and recycled components. What makes Eco-Fleece unique is how soft it is. This is like your favorite sweatshirt that you've earned day in and day out, washing this thing, sweating into it. When it gets out of that dryer, you just can't wait to put it on. This is that straight out of the box. What makes the Eco-Fleece so soft is its loosely knit face. So what you're looking at is a relatively uneven surface, far more uneven and cavernous, so to speak, than a t-shirt. So one of the tricks is how do we prepare that surface to take ink on your press so that it acts more like a t-shirt. So let me give you some tips on how to screen print and get the best results on this stuff. In a perfect world, you want to design for the fleece. So because the fleece is so soft and so vintage, you want to try and keep the ink soft in vintage. You can accomplish that in a number of ways, like we've done with the National Parks program. Okay, so we've got a project set up out on the press right now. It's actually a pretty perfect project for keeping the ink soft. What we've got is inks that are darker than the fabric, and we don't have a ton of ink coverage. So what we're gonna do is print the first ink and not dry it. And we're gonna go over to the next ink color and print directly on top of that, wet on wet. And now to keep that second ink from feeling like ink, we're gonna have what we call a stepper screen, where we just print no ink and just step that ink right into the garment. Again, the exercise is push the ink in so that you don't feel it. So you create that beautiful vintage soft print on a really beautiful vintage soft garment. Now, if you're not controlling design and the customer hands you, they want this black Eco-Fleece with bright white on it, there's some tricks that we can employ. One is use a little bit of puff, about 10% puff base. Print it through a 110, have it just skim the top of the garment, and it'll get the ink deposit to rise up off the surface of the garment, and you'll end up with a nice bright looking print. If that doesn't feel right, or if that's not right for your particular project, what you can do is reduce your white plastisol underbase, put it through a 200 mesh. The objective there is to fill in and create a nice even printing surface. So it's not going to seem like what you're used to doing on a t-shirt, where you put down an underbase and you just keep building thick, thick, thick on top. What you're doing is basically priming this surface and creating a more perfect print surface. From there, you can now put thin layers of ink up on top, and you will wind up with a nice, bright looking print. All right, so again, we talked about heat. This is an often overlooked part of your shop. You turn the dryer on, you keep it set to the same thing day in and day out, day in and day out. You don't want to do that here, especially if you're trying to deal with keeping the ink bright on a dark colored fabric. What you want to do is keep the oven at around 300 to 315, and the speed, you want it to dwell for maybe a minute and a half. And I hate to throw numbers out like this because it may be different in your shop. Ideally, what you want to do is get a temperature probe on that ink and make sure it's hitting the manufacturer's suggested temperature. The trick about the Eco-Fleece is that it will warm normally like an organic fiber, like cotton, until it gets to a certain point where it'll just kind of skyrocket. So that's why we say be careful. If you follow these tips from start to finish, you should be able to navigate your way through this project to a beautiful vintage soft result.